Share screen share. Okay. Ah, okay, so previously we have seen how to create a trigger which is a schedule trigger. Schedule trigger is nothing but uh, you give a time when to start, or you give the frequency of the trigger, and it will make the pipeline run in that order, right? So we did not see any other type of trigger. Okay, so you already created triggers are there. If I go to trigger, uh, cancel. So this is a schedule trigger. You can see the type here, schedule trigger. You give the start time. I'm audible, right? I'm mic is on, my recording is on, I'm sharing. Okay. Okay. Start date is say 24, it is given as 24th February. You give the start date and you give the frequency. So from the start date at this particular frequency, this trigger will uh, start the pipeline. So how do you attach the trigger to a pipeline? Open some pipeline. So here in this manage tab, triggers are all created. So when you go to a pipeline, some pipeline, open some pipeline. How do you attach a trigger to this pipeline? You go here, you say add trigger, say new edit, whatever triggers are there, you'll see in this list. That particular trigger you select and you can add the trigger to this. And you can add a particular trigger. Single trigger can be attached to any number of pipelines. Then when it is attached to any number of pipelines, whenever the trigger runs or whenever the time is met or the schedule is met, it will run all the pipelines which is attached to the trigger. Okay. So you can have so many number of pipelines for a particular trigger. So whenever the time comes or the schedule run comes, it will kick off all the pipelines. Okay, that is what schedule trigger is. Now we'll see a storage event based trigger. I'll create a new one, new trigger. I'll say storage event trigger, and I'll set type as storage event trigger. Okay, so in storage event trigger is nothing but whenever there is a file created in a particular folder or a file deleted in a particular folder, it will trigger the pipeline. We will define what file is created, the name and all in this trigger. And whenever the file is created there, the pipeline will run. We used the same logic when we were building an until activity. So what we did in until activity, what did we do is whenever we run the pipeline, after running the pipeline, what until activity does, it checks a particular folder for a particular file. Until the file is not found, it will not go forward. When the file is found, it will go forward to the next item, next activity, right? So that is a as a part of the pipeline, we have put the until activity which is checking for the file. So here also we are not running the pipeline. Here what trigger does is it will check for the particular file in a folder. Only after the file is created there, it will trigger the pipeline. Okay, so just a second. Okay, so when I create a type of, I select a type of this as trigger as storage events, right? I'm coming to subscription. I can select my subscription here, or if you go to manually, you will select the URL there, same as other data sets or anything, not an link service only. So storage account name, I have to give one storage account name. So my storage account name which I've been using is this Arsenal 22, and in that storage account, I need to select some container name. So I have only one container in that input data, I guess. I'll select input data. I have both the containers. I'll select input data for now. Slash input dash data. Okay, so here I select the container name, and after selecting the container name, it is asking for my blob path begins with means. So if I need to check for a file whether it is created or not, which will trigger this pipeline. which will start this trigger, I have to check, I have to give the path of the file. Like path means including the folders and all I have to give. So here it is like a wildcard entry where I can give uh, uh, if I give some dummy folder, right? So if I have input data in container, I have this folder called dummy. If I say dummy here, it will check for all the files and folders inside dummy. Whenever that file is created, it will start. So if I say inside dummy slash, I'll say some folder name X, then inside dummy and inside X, it will check. So for example, if you see in dummy, we have something called abc.csv. So the path of this file is what? Dummy slash abc.csv, right? So the same way it is asking for blob path begins with. I'll say this one only, dummy. Okay. I'll say blob path ends with as dot csv. So when I have these two conditions created here and event as blob created, what does this trigger check for? The trigger will go to input data container and it will go to dummy folder. Okay, inside dummy folder, whenever there is a file created with .csv extension, this will start the trigger. Okay, so I did not specify the particular file name. I have selected as blob path ends with as .csv only. So any file under dummy, any file when it is created with .csv, it will start the trigger. Okay, so I have selected the event as Bob created. Whenever it is created, it will start it. Okay, so start trigger on creation. Okay, what I will say continue here. It is just checking for files here. What I'll do is here I'll remove the files. So what I'll do is wherever there's a file created with .csv on this folder, the pipeline should run. I'll first create this trigger, then I'll see which pipeline I can attach it to. Input dummy, डमी में तो कुछ नहीं है ना, ये क्या दिखा रहा है डमी डॉट सी एस वी. Let it be there, we'll see. So I cannot publish this because it is not attached to any of the, I can't start this because it is not attached to any of the pipelines. I'll stop this trigger and I'll publish it. It will get published. Now I can attach it to any of the pipelines, then I can start it. Then it will, whenever I start this trigger, it will keep on checking for that particular file. We'll do that same only. Okay. So if I'll take some pipeline. Any pipeline is not an issue. I'll take pipeline 700, pipeline 5, no, 4, 3. So some pipeline. There is nothing. The trigger is cannot. It is not needed that the trigger value or trigger function is related to the pipeline. It can be independent also. Here trigger to trigger 3 are there. I'll detach these. I'll add the storage event trigger. So whenever I add this, whenever there is a file that is created in the folder, this pipeline will run. What is this pipeline name? Pipeline 3. Okay, so we'll publish this. Okay, so I'll go to this folder, I'll say refresh. What I'll do is I'll add a file with .csv extension. As soon as I add a file, the pipeline should run. Because in the background, what the trigger does is it is continuously checking for a .csv file inside the dummy folder. Whenever it finds a file, whenever it sees that creation is done, it will kick off this pipeline. Okay, so I am uploading this is uploaded, then I'll check whether the pipeline is running or not. I'll go to monitor folder, monitor tab, then say refresh. So in triggered options, you'll see it will get triggered. We'll see just a second. What is happening? The trigger is on or not? Just a second. The trigger is stop or no? We'll start this trigger first. We are not kicking off the pipeline. We are putting the trigger in start state. So we'll delete this. Whenever a file is created, department data, open, upload. So this is created here. Now we'll see the pipeline is kicked off or not. Array, input data, dummy folder is here. What happened? Filter.
I think trigger is expecting dummy.csv file.
No, any file which is inside the dummy folder. Path begins with dummy, right? So any file. So when you see the path of this particular file, right click, download, view edit. The path of this file is dummy slash department underscore data.csv, right? So this should also work on the path begins with dummy csv created, started. See, this is the path is dummy slash dummy department underscore data.csv, right? So it should already trigger this, right? Okay, we'll go to triggers again. See trigger what's happening. And then put data dummy say slash continue. Okay, publish. Okay, we'll attach a different pipeline. Maybe the filter activity. 7 should not do, but new edit, storage event trigger, continue, continue. This is pipeline value, some parameter they are asking for because this pipeline has a parameter value. 17, fine. So trigger, new edit trigger. Okay, now we'll upload one hour file. We'll see. Browse. Yeah, now it got executed. This is now only 922. This pipeline 3 got executed. We'll add one more file and we should kick off the pipeline once again. We'll see downloads. We have different data CSV file. Yes. So whenever it sees that sales.csv file, again it should get, yeah, it got pipeline got kicked. So pipeline 17 also it is attached. So pipeline 3 also attached. So both of them they are running. Go to triggers. So there are two pipelines for this pipeline 3, pipeline 17. So both of them are running as soon as the file got created there. What is in pipeline 17? It is taking time because there is some data flow activity. Okay, some activity is there in this, not an issue. So whenever the file is created, this is triggering this. We can upload another file also and see some CSV file. This is all the CSV file only. Okay, upload, upload. So now again we should have a different, again triggered once again. Yeah, it got triggered once again, both of these. So all these are running. I'll cancel these runs. Not an issue. So this is how these triggers run. Okay, we have two options here. Started and blob created and blob deleted. You can also put blob deleted whenever there is a blob deleted. I mean whenever there is a file deleted with this path name and .csv file, this trigger will run this. You can use dot also. Whenever it is deleted, if you want to perform something, you can use that. So this is how storage events work. Okay. So whenever first time if you are using this, you are creating this, right? Whenever you fill this pane, you will see a prompt which says you have to subscribe to the Azure event triggers. Okay. So you have not subscribed, it will give a small prompt and click here. So what you have to do is you have to go back to your home, go to subscriptions, select your subscription, and here in settings you have something called resource providers. Go to resource providers and search for event grid. You have to select this event grid and you have to register here. I have registered here. I am getting unregistered option. You will get a register option. You just register here so that whenever this is registered, this event grid is one service which will event grid is one service which will uh, work whenever the file is created. It will check and it will send you send this information. So this will work only, this trigger will only this storage event trigger only works when this event grid is subscribed, or else it will not work. Here also, when you are working for the first time, it will show you in the red letters about this prompt that event grid has to be subscribed. So just go here and subscribe this, and again give it a 2 minutes time, a refresh. When it is registered, you can go here and you can check and create a new trigger and it will work. Okay, so that is storage event trigger, and we have one other trigger. We'll check this. This is, it will take more time for this tumbling window trigger and more complicated things. So we'll use that. We'll discuss in a different class. And coming to the custom events, here you can't create custom events as it is because you have to create an event grid, which is not in scope of our course. Event grid you have to create, which is generally handled by the infra guys or the DevOps guys. So how event grid works is, if there is a different service or an external service that is running, okay, whenever you can program an event grid such that whenever that service is giving some output or sending some message to the event grid, that event grid should send a message to this trigger. Then this trigger will kick off the pipeline. You can program it such that. So you have to create one event grid. You have to give the endpoints for that event grid, which service is acting, which service is sending message to the event grid. Whenever the message is created, get received there on the event grid, that will kick it off here. So I'll find out, because event grid and all I don't have idea. I'll see how to set it up, and we'll see how we can use that. Generally, it is handled by DevOps guys. So I'll find out who can help me on this, and I'll set one grid topic. I mean, grid topic and how this works, and we'll see in a later class. Next class or after that class, we'll see this also, because it will take some time to set those things also. We'll see that there. And one more thing we did not discuss in detail are the integration runtimes. When I said the five most important uh, components of Azure Data Factory, one was link services. We've been playing with link services. Then data sets, we've been creating them daily. And now triggers we saw. The other was integration runtime. So when we are discussing about integration runtime, we have understood that integration runtime acts as the processor of Azure Data Factory. It is not nothing but the processor or processing capacity. Okay, and this is a auto resolve integration runtime which comes by default in the by default with the Azure Data Factory. Whenever we have created this, this auto resolve integration runtime comes. So there are two types of integration runtimes in Azure. So when you go to new, you can see that there is Azure self-hosted and Azure SIS. This Azure SSIS integration runtime is used to uh, lift and shift SSIS packages. We'll come to that later. When you say Azure and self-hosted runtimes, so when you click on this and say continue, you got two types of integration runtimes. One is Azure and self-hosted. When this Azure integration runtime is such runtime which can be used only if the services are local to Azure platform. If you have, since Azure platform has public network access, you can limit it, but it's not a private network. So whenever there are services on the Azure platform, you can use this Azure type of integration runtime. Here, if you see, this auto resolve integration runtime is also Azure type of integration runtime. So you can use this to do all the processing stuff when the services are there, when your data source and destination are local to Azure platform. So if you want to get some data which is outside Azure platform, say some database which is on some on-prem server, or some database which is hosted elsewhere, or some data which is not local to Azure platform, for that you will need an integration runtime which is self-hosted integration runtime. So when we said that integration runtime is nothing but the processing capacity. So whenever you are selecting Azure, right, the processing capacity, the how much processing capacity is needed, that's all managed by Azure in the background. So whenever you are putting more larger data in data flows and all, it is processing and all, that Azure integration runtime, auto resolve integration runtime will take care of that in the background. How much server is needed, how fast it should be processed and all, based on the availability of nodes, processing capacity, overall platform in the particular region, it will take care. But if we want to get some data which is outside the Azure platform, we should use the self-hosted integration runtime. Whenever you are creating the self-hosted integration runtime, it is asking for a name of this integration runtime. You say create it and it gets created. So this self-hosted integration runtime should point at a particular system or a node or a virtual machine. So it cannot use the processing capacity of Azure platform. It will only use the processing capacity of a particular computer or a node or a virtual machine. So what we have to do, we have to install this integration runtime software in a particular computer and link this integration runtime and the computer, so that this integration runtime will use the resources of that computer or laptop or desktop, anything. It can be called node also or a virtual machine also. This will link to that, and whatever the work has to be done by this integration runtime, it will point at that system and use the resources of that system. Okay, how to do that? We need, when you say download install integration runtime, it will open up a page where you can download. So here what I am doing is I am downloading this integration runtime to my laptop. Okay, now everything is not running on laptop. This is all browser, right? Through browser, we are running everything on the cloud. So there is nothing software that is installed on my laptop. First time I am installing this integration runtime in my laptop. So when I link this integration runtime to this integration runtime software on my laptop, this integration runtime to IR is there. No? This will use the resources of my laptop whenever any linked service is using this integration runtime. So link services are using the integration runtime, right? There is no doubt in that, right? Whenever you go to link services, you see click on any link service. This is using the integration runtime here. So since all these resources are local to Azure and are under public network, this auto resolve integration runtime can be used because this is of type Azure. So whenever we have to get some data from outside Azure platform or some on-prem server, uh, this integration runtime with self-hosted type has to be created, and this integration runtime will will get linked to the a physical system or a virtual machine in which the integration runtime software is also installed. So it is getting downloaded. We'll install this and point to this system. Okay, then how does it work? When you'll get a doubt that how this integration runtime will get the data from the on-prem server. So what happens is whenever this integration is runtime, whenever we create some link service to get some data from an on-prem SQL server, what it will do is this integration runtime is using the system, right? So this computers or systems IP address is given way in the firewall of that particular SQL server. So this laptop or computer, this will fetch the data from that SQL server and give it to the integration runtime, and this data will come to Azure. So this integration runtime will make use of the laptop. Here I am installing in my laptop, so it will make use of the process. Normally in real time scenario, what happens is there will be a virtual machine. Azure only will provide the virtual machine, so it is independent. This in this virtual machine you can install this integration runtime. This virtual machine sizes and capacities would be there based on its RAM and all. So whenever that integration runtime is pointing at that virtual machine, that virtual machine RAM is used, RAM and that processor is used to get the data which is not in the public network or which is in the particular private network. So the only logic how that virtual machine or this laptop is accessing the private network is the IP address will be given access whenever you are accessing that firewall or access the SQL server. The firewall would be there, no firewall access would be there, not there. The IP address of the system would be cleared, given access. Then this integration runtime will be able to get the data from there. So that is a simple explanation for that. We'll install this on my system, then we'll link it. The same way, if you want to create a virtual machine and install this virtual machine creation and all, the DevOps guys will do. What they'll do is integration and time also they'll install that this, and they'll link that and give it to you. So this integration and time installation and all is not your issue, but you should understand that self-hosted integration and time has to be used to get data from anything which is not in the Azure platform or not in public network. So Azure type of integration runtime is enough to get any data from the Azure platform. That we have to understand, so that whenever you are creating link services, we would know which integration runtime to choose. Okay, so this is getting installed. So now you may get it out that why don't we give access to this Azure type of integration runtime only to get data from there? Because this Azure type of integration runtime, no, in background, it will use multiple nodes. Each time one node will come and use that processing capacity is different. It can scale to larger processing capacity. It can come down. That is all handled in the background whenever it is needed by the Azure itself. So their nodes will change. Particular nodes or processing capacity in a particular region will change. So that all those nodes cannot be given access on a private network, right? For that particular purpose, we are pointing at a particular laptop or a virtual machine, and that machine is given access to a server on the private network. So this installation is done. So it is asking for an authentication key to link this integration runtime to the integration runtime of my system. So this is the key one. I'll just copy this, paste it here, say, and say register. When I say register, it gets registered, and so this is the name of my computer, desktop IKLF MFLU new navigated. When I say finish, this integration runtime is linked to my laptop. So whenever I use this integration runtime, what I'll do is next class by Wednesday, I'll set up an on-prem SQL server. So then we'll use this integration runtime to access data on that on-prem SQL server. Then we'll see which integration runtime we are using and how it is used. It'll take some time to set up now. We'll do for Wednesday's class. So now it is set up. Integration runtime self-hosted has been registered successfully. Close this. Uh, if you see here, you go to nodes of this integration runtime, you can see that the same system details are here. Desktop IKL MFLU unavailable. Why unavailable? Apply. Refresh. So it is running already. You click on this, go to nodes. You can see that this is this name of my system, and this is the IP address of my system. So this integration runtime is now linked to the my laptop. Okay. So this is how it's done. So now we have self-hosted integration runtime. We know how it is running, how it is created and all. So now we have something called uh, say for example in a real-time scenario, or whenever you're using an organization, say this integration runtime is used to access some SQL server on a private network or an on-prem server, right? So whenever you are working on a project, you will have different environments, right? So say dev environment or test environment, then production environment, because we will not build everything in directly on production. We will build pipelines. We'll do some basic stuff on dev environment. Then we'll put the code in test environment. Like for every environment, we have a different data factory created. One is dev data factory, then there is a test data factory, then there are more layers, then we have production data factory. So whenever using these many data factories, So for every data factory, the resources are for every environment there are different resources. Like the data factory only will have one data bricks also. If we are using it, then we have servers also. So sometimes when we are getting this data from outside Azure environment, there might not be those many different types of server available for each type of environment. So what we'll be doing most of the times, there is one actual server that is helping the prod environment. There is some dummy server or sandbox server from which we are getting data. Dev also we are getting data from that sandbox server only. Test also we are getting the data from sandbox server only. So since we are getting the same data into both the data factories, then we can use the same integration runtime or the same system. My laptop is that system only to get data from that SQL server. So another integration runtime or another thing can't be used or can't be pointing to my laptop. So what I'll do is I'll share this integration runtime only to a different data factory. Then what will happen? That data factory will use this only as an shared integration runtime. We'll see. So I have an different data factory. So this data factory is Arsenal ADF1, right? I have a different data factory called I27 data factory. So what I'll do is I'll open this I27 data factory. I'll create an integration runtime there. I'll use that integration runtime. I'll share this integration runtime too with that, and that will use of my system only. We'll see that. So this is my I27 data factory. I'll go to integration runtime. Previously, whatever is there, I'm just deleting it. So first I'll go to my original integration runtime. I'll click this here. I'll go to sharing. And sharing, I have to grant permission that this integration runtime can be used by other data factory also. Whenever I say grant permission here, it will show what all other data factories are there in this subscription only. So I want to give permission to use to provide the access to the integration runtime to this I27 data factory. This is my other data factory, right? I'll say add. Okay, now that this I25 integration data factory, it can use the integration runtime here. So how can it use? I'll say apply. I'll go to I27 data factory. I'll create a new integration runtime which is self-hosted create. Okay, so here it will go to links. I'll go to links nodes. Okay, sorry, wait. I should have selected shared somewhere, right? Say new Azure self-hosted. Then I have to use this linked self-hosted and say continue. And here description resource ID. I have to add the resource ID of the original integration runtime here. Then it will get connected to that. So here my resource ID will be given sharing settings. Okay, nodes. This is my key. This is my resource ID. I copy this resource ID, come to I27 data factory. I have to paste it here and I say create. Now this self-hosted linked integration runtime. Now this is my second data factory, I27 data factory. When I open this integration runtime here again, if I go to notes, it will indirectly show my desktop only, right? My desktop name, IKLMFLU, same IP address, it is pointing it. So both the data factories are using my laptop only as node to access the external server, external on-prem server or any other thing. So that is how you create shared self-host integration runtime also. Here we have created one self-host integration runtime. We have created another integration runtime in another data factory, which is linked to this integration runtime only, so that both of them can use one resource, one virtual machine only, or one node only, or one laptop only to access the resources outside it. Okay, now that we have created this, in the next class, what we'll do, I'll set up a on-prem server. We'll connect to that and get data from there. Then everything would be more clear why we are using this and all. Fine, I'll close this. We'll proceed with our next topic. SHIR is done, shared SHIR is done. Okay, so we have already used something called set variable already, right? Six. So we can create like parameters only in pipeline. We can create variables, right? So here we have used while using until activity also we have created a variable. We have given the default value as false. So while going to the until activity, what did we do in that particular if condition? Whenever we want to change the value of that set variable, we use a activity called set variable activity. So I went to if condition here. What did we do? I used a set variable activity to change the value of the file access variable only to true. So this can be used in any other ways. Here only we are just using false and true. So the set variable activity is generally used to change the value or assign a value to the particular variable. That is how set variable is used. Okay. I then we have something called append variable I'll show you. Append variable we'll use in a pipeline in another class. We'll find out where it can be used. Append variable is generally only used to add a particular add a just one item value to an array of variables. So for example, if I have one variable created here, say this is array 1. So I'll create this as an array variable. Only append variable activity works only on the array variable. Say for example, if I have an array here, which is 1, 2, 3 values in this. Okay. So if I have an append variable activity, this can be used to add one value to the existing variable. Any one value will go to 4. So when I have given this 4, what this append variable will do, it will add one value, any value. It can be number also, it can be character value also. It will add this value to the array1 variable. That's what append variable does. The use case and real time scenario we'll see. I'm just noting it down. We'll see how it can be used. So this is what append variable does. What it will do when I run this to the existing variable 1, 2, 3, this 4 will be added. And the output can also be used only. We can't see the output here itself. So we'll use it in some pipeline to understand how this can be used. Okay, so and what we have missed is we have something called user properties for all the activities. So what are these user properties used for? When I say for this copy activity, when I say user property auto generate, there are two properties that are auto generated for this user property, which are source and destination. So generally these two are used to as user properties. These user properties nothing but whenever the pipeline is running, whenever we are seeing a particular pipeline when it is run, here you will get the option as user property, so that when we click on that we'll understand that a particular pipeline to source value is this and destination value is this, just like a tag. So we don't need to come to a pipeline and see whether what is the source and what is the destination. When I publish this, I'll show you. Whatever we give in the user properties, it is nothing but it's like a tag or any information we can give it here. We can say name of this user property and give value for this. Whenever I am running this pipeline, say trigger, this pipeline is running, right? I'll go to this, I'll check it here. It is running. When I click this, it will show the user properties here. When I click on this, it will show me what is the source and what is the destination. Okay, so just to know what is the source and destination, I'll use the user properties here, so that I don't need to go to my source, and here it is given, right? See, my source and destination here it is given. Just to know the source and destination or the whatever user properties are given, I am using this. So just like a quick glance of the user properties. I don't need to go to copy data activity again in the pipeline and see what is my source and destination. Here I have first and information I have here. For that, I'll use user properties. So for all activities, On the last tab, you have this user properties. You take any activity on the last tab, you should be having this user properties. You can use them. Okay. And yeah, we'll create a new activity pipeline. Okay. We have something called, okay, we'll create a new link service. Go to link services, new link service. We have something called HTTP link service. So this link service used to get data from some HTTP location. Generally, HTTP is used to copy some file which is at an HTTP location, not get data directly. If some file is there on this HTTP location, that CSV file or something can be copied from that location to say sync, whatever the sync it is. Okay. So for that we'll create this. So first we need to understand what the source is. I have my GitHub account. I have files in that. We'll do what we'll do is we'll access that only and get the files. Login. So it's already logged in. Okay. I have something called. Okay. I have two files in my GitHub account, employee data.csv, department data.csv. So I have to get these to my sink. This is my source. So when I am selecting this in the link service, say continue, it will ask for base URL and authentication type. We will say this HTTP server one link service name same. It is using auto resolve only. This will work because that is on public access and all. You can use this in base URL. You go to this site and the base URL for this is till this github.com, right? HTTPS colon slash till github.com. I'll give this as base URL. Okay, now authentication type, you can say anonymous because here in GitHub it is given as public only, so no anybody can comment. It is given as public, so anybody can come and download. So here I can put it as anonymous and get the file from there. Instead of anonymous, if I have ID and password, I can give basic and I can give my GitHub username and password. It will use this to get the data from there. For now, I am putting as anonymous. And I create my link service here. So this link service created just to hit the GitHub homepage only, nothing else. Okay. So we have created this to hit the GitHub pipeline 18. It was one activity. Close. Okay. This is my pipeline activity. So here I have to create a data set to use that link service and get the data from our GitHub. So here what I'll see, I'll create directly copy activity and inside this one I'll create a data set. Source, I'll create a data set which is of type HTTP and I want to get a CSV file from source. And link service I wanted to use HTTP server 1. In this I have to give the relative URL of that particular file. In link service we give the base URL. Here we have to give the relative URL. So relative URL is, you click on this file and you will get the relative URL. You copy this, you give it here, give the relative URL here and say okay. So here we are asking for anything, right? So whenever we are hitting HTTP, we have something called request body and all. We'll come to that when we are going for REST API. We'll see REST API and pagination rules in next class because I need an easy REST API and pagination also for that. So here we are just using the get request method to just get the file. So we are not using any of the specifications here. We are just getting the file directly. And in sync, what I'll do is I'll create a JSON type folder, say JSON type file. In link service, same link service I can use storage account one. In output data, I'll put this JSON file in output data. Okay. Okay. So I'll create a folder here. Output today's date is 17/03/2025. So I am not specifying a file name. I'll show you what will happen if I'm not specifying a file name. Then we'll come back again and specify a file name and see. So I'm publishing this. Okay, I'll run this pipeline. What it should do is it should make use of the link service. Go to that using the base URL, relative URL. It should get that CSV file, come here, convert into JSON file and put it in my sink. We'll debug and see if there are any issues. अरे यार क्या हुआ? More columns. So mapping should not be needed because my see what I'll do is I'll change this to sync CSV file only. Then the whole file should be copied as it is. This conversion will handle differently or else CSV storage account type output data. Okay, okay. Okay, publish. Okay, publish. Since we are just copying the CSV file, we don't want to convert it. This mapping, I have deleted everything. We'll see once. So this came to the output folder, sync output data. So here I'll show you there would be a folder structure. We'll go to Archna 22 containers, output data. So what happened was whenever we did not specify a file name here, it got the whole file name from the source. The whole file name from the source is kkdboy07 slash I27 march slash blob slash main slash employee.csv. It took the whole file name from here. Whenever it took the whole file name from here, so those will be created as folders, right? So the same way it has created a folder. KKD boy 17, I27 March, blob, then main, then employee.csv. So all that file name, the list of all that, the whole file name got created into subfolders because we did not create a, I will select a file name here. If we select this folder name and file name here, output 17032025 and say file name is today1.csv. Now we'll run this publish all publish. Now we'll run this. We'll see what will happen. So debug. Okay, we'll go to the output data. Output data. We got our output 70 2025 and we got our file here. So whenever here we did not get all the folder structure here because we have specified the file name. We got the data. So it will give all the data including this data also. Where is our data? Yeah. What is all this, bro? Where is my data? Array. Source relative URL. Sync open preview data. So it gave me the complete HTML file, but it should not give me the complete HTML file because I am pointing at a CSV file only. should give me this data, right? Much ref heads main. Yeah, I'll go to this raw file. So here, this is my relative address. So here I'll put this as my raw GitHub source content.com as my base URL. We'll change this here in our link service also. Copy data source, open my link service edit, put this as my base URL, user content and all. Then come to my data set here, open relative URL would be this. See, come back here, relative URL should be this. Okay, now say publish, publish. Say debug. So I should not select mapping because it will give an issue. Clear. So we'll go to this refresh. My file is this. So I got my data. So previously what was a mistake was in GitHub file, I was pointing at the whole page. So this whole page with all these buttons and all, the whole HTML raw content came. So but all I need to get is only this data, right? So for this I have click on this raw and got only this as a base URL and my relative URL is this. Then I got only this data. So that's the difference. So we just need to find out, we have to eliminate all this. So I have just selected the raw content and got my data from there. That is the change that I have done on my copy activity, my link service and data set. So that is how we get this data from HTTP. Only thing you give is base URL and relative URL. Okay, the REST API and pagination we'll see in the next class. Mm, fine, we can create a REST API now only, but pagination and all I have to set up I need to get a new some page, some different website where I can use pagination and process data that we'll find out. Normal REST API will get it like this only. We'll can create a link service. We'll create a link service. Say REST API continues a REST service, base URL and all. I have one website called this control C. This is some website where data is there, which we hit with REST API. Say base URL, and I'll say this is anonymous. So base URL I can give the whole thing, or else I can say so control X. I can give this as base URL. Anything it is anonymous only, there are no credentials to that. So I'll publish this link service. So here what data do I have? It is showing me all the data, page 1, page per 6, per page 6 entries, total 12 and all. When you click on this, this is the data that is there on this REST API site. Page 1, per page 6, total 12, total pages 2, data and all. So there is only this data here. So we'll get this data. Okay, come here. We created link service called REST API. We'll go here, create a pipeline, another pipeline, and create a copy activity, copy data to source, create a new data set, say REST API. So link service, the same link service which you have used. Advanced, nothing is needed. Data set. Then this relative URL will have used this now. We'll give it in the relative URL. Come back here, go to sync. I want this as a CSV file. Continue, CSV, continue. Storage account 1. Output data, I have a folder called output 17.3. Put the file in this folder. Put name, this is rest.csv. Okay. Give here. I'll say okay. In the next step, we can give the file name of the file here. Rest.csv. Yeah, rest source. Pipeline 1 will publish and I'll show how the data is coming. Just a second. So when you go to mapping here, you can import schemas. So it will show all the data that is present there. So I don't want all the data that is there because this is the data that is present here. Page per page total 12. I only want these data: ID, email, first name, last name, avatar. ID, email, first name, last name, avatar. Okay, so here say something called I'll say I need only data. So here I can delete these, right? Just a second. Page per page total pages. ID should come to ID, email to email, first name to first name, last name to last name, avatar to avatar. I don't want this URL and text also. Support also I want. Column one also I don't want. Only these values I want. So I can ID as I can create I can select as int 16. Email I can select as string. First name also string. Last name should be string. Avatar also string you can select. Now we'll see debug and see. So here we are not using anything on just only I'm using get method only. It is getting the data. So there is nothing else. Oh, I'm not using any kind of pagination rules and all. Only there is only one page of data. I am getting this data directly. Okay. So in the next class, we'll create a larger website how to get more data using pagination and rules. I'll use that. We'll use a loop kind of structure to get one page after the other when there are multiple pages. Say there are 100 pages or say 1,000 pages or there are 100 records or 1,000 records, page by page how to get those we'll see in the next class. In that, here we debugged it. It is copy data is done. We'll go to output rest.csv, edit. So We got only one data, which said the preview ID, email, first name, last name, avatar. Why did we get only one row of data? Because in copy data, here we have selected only maybe one row somewhere. That's why we
The
got
map,
only.
I think in the mapping we have selected 0 for the array. That's why we are getting this.
Okay, okay, yes, you are right. So here we have selected the zero, right? So अरे यार, wait. First we'll delete these. Okay, ID email another page per page, total pages, support. Okay, all this is gone. Now it will come. Now we are in a data collection different data we have selected. ID will come to this correctly. Nothing else is selected. We can debug and see. So come here, close it, refresh, rest.csv, edit. We got all the data. Got it? The six entries we got. Okay, so we did not do anything. We did not change anything for this on source, whatever we are using, get, post, and all. If you want to use this post and request body, that REST API, their documentation only will be. They'll define what has to be sent in the request body and all, how it is to be used. That we'll see in the next class. I'll find some website where data can be fetched easily, something like Wikipedia, where we'll have multiple pages also and get data like that. I'll get a site by next class and we'll do pagination rules and all. We'll check in that class. Okay, so the other activities also we'll do in the next class only. So we saw HTTP REST API, Salesforce integration runtime, event-based triggers in this class. The rest we'll see in the next class. Okay, guys, then meet you on Wednesday, 9 p.m. Any doubts, guys?
Yes, Asha.
Yes.
Yes, yeah,
Yes, Vilas.
yeah. Just if we can revisit this session, I mean, a few points in next session, it will help.
Which was HTTP ones or any previous ones?
Yeah, in today's session, actually, it was something like I at least for especially for me, I was not able to connect many
Okay.
things.
Okay. We will again see HTTP and REST API in detail again tomorrow. I mean next class.
Yeah.
In detail, we'll HTTP simple and REST API will again by slowly we'll connect that. Anyway, we'll see the pagination in the next class. So we'll do it slowly in the next one.
Okay. Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, Vilas.
Hi, Shashank. Vikas here.
Hi, Vikas.
Shashank, just one question.
Yeah.
Uh, s- so, Shashank, I believe that we are hitting the curl request, basically the methods of HTTP REST APIs, right?
Yeah.
So, how without the authentication you are accessing the source basically without the authentication part, you I can see you hit it the endpoint called users, right?
Yes.
Is it open source or
Yeah. It is
what
an
exactly?
open source. There is no authentication there itself. On the source itself, it's not there. That's why I'm able to get it.
Okay, okay.
Because
And
I
even for the GitHub or GitHub also?
GitHub also it is in public only, no. That's why I put anonymous and I took it. If we have GitHub, if this is not public, here this is public mentioned somewhere. Or else if you have the password and all, we'll use the credentials here. This is only public, that's why I'm getting this. Here, if the password is needed, what we'll do is here in this HTTP, right? Here we'll select this as basic and give my username password for GitHub site. Then you can get the data from there. Okay, here I'll say username password, or else for this REST API, here also I use this as anonymous. If what authentication is needed for the REST API, we'll use it. Is it basic or generally nowadays all we use is OAuth 2.0 client credential endpoint and all will use this client ID, client secret that we'll use to connect to this REST API. So since it is free, the REST API is open and all, we are able to connect to this with anonymous, or else it will not be possible in all the cases.
And only these many authentication is available. I think we have some other authentication also. Here I can see auth to service principal basic, right? We have bearer also, we have API tokens also, right?
I think those are not available here. This should work, right? Most of the REST APIs over 2.0 client credential, these will work, right? I guess for REST APIs.
Okay.
I think this should work for REST APIs. So, only thing is connecting to the source. You have idea, it's okay. Don't put more thing into that because you will not be given any credentials of source or anything. You will be helped to connect to the source. Only thing is after getting the data into my copy activity, how do I handle it or how do I process it? That will have more this on. You got me? Because all this data is not available with us, so um, it is with the DevOps guys or the infra guys. So they'll not provide this. They'll say that that is secure and they'll create this and give it to us. That's what happens for all the other things also. All the other link services, integration runtime also, you will not have access to create or directly connect to the source because those values will not be given to you physically. As they'll help us connect to the source, and then from there, how to handle the data that we'll take care of.
Okay. Yeah.
Here we have these only. We have basic, which is just username and password. And we have OAuth 2.0 client. Because in link service, we don't have any other REST. We have only this one type of REST API.
I think we can add it in the headers part.
Yeah,
Like in headers, we can add the bearer token and other things.
there we can add in the header part, we can use it. Come to source. Here when you're in post, we can add it here. Request body, here it will show header also.
Yes, additional headers.
Yes, here we can use it.
And here we can add the bearer and other
Yes,
things.
if token that is needed, here we can use in the
I
header
understood.
part. Yeah, we'll do that. I'll get hold of a site where we can access and we'll do that. We need some site and details, some API documentation also we'll need, so that following that we can do it from here. Okay then guys, anything else? Okay then let's meet on Wednesday 9 p.m. again. Bye guys.